the future. You say the future of the salsa, right? Mm-hmm. And the future, we have to if we want to put a good way the future of the salsa, we have to start making original song. We have to start making, because it's because that I think that the salsa is in bad moment right now, because the people in Chicago and the people los salseros, they stop doing a new songs, and they keep doing tribute, right? Tribute, mm-hmm. and tribute. It's a good thing to make a tribute, but tomorrow in 20 years, yeah, okay, we are doing tribute to Celia Cruz, to Oscar de Leon, and then in 20 or 50 years, who's gonna do a tribute to us? ¿Quién no va a hacer tributo a nosotros? Nadie, right, you know, right. Nobody.
Well, just to let you guys know, I went ahead and started doing this live just because I think this information that we're talking about, I think that everybody needs to know, you know. So I think it's important. So we're still waiting on two guys. We're waiting on A-Rod and Carlos as well. So I just want to let you know that we're live right now, okay? So I wanted to, you guys, if you're just joining in, right now we have 4 guys here: Enriquez, Jesus, Jorge, Ortega, me, and we're waiting on the other 2 as well. We're just going into a little discussion right now about how we met each other. So I just wanted, you know, and Enriquez brought up some points and stuff like that. So I think this should be part of the discussion as well. that it is. So I hopefully, you know, if you guys want to share it, it's on 4 Fantastic Events page right now. If you want to create, you know, the what they call the watch parties on your page and stuff like that, you can do that as well while we're talking. So that's basically what I'm doing right now. So and just let me set this up real quick. It's on 4 Fantastic Events right now, and it's on sharing on my page right now. So just want to let you know. All right. So like I said, we're just waiting on two more people. Everybody, like I said, mentioned to you guys, I hope everybody's healthy, everybody's good. You know, it's 7:59 right now, and I obviously everybody, I know A-Rod said for sure, and then Carlos said for sure, so we're just waiting on them. In this, you brought a good point, and something that Jesus and I were just mentioning, that I met him when he first did my first show in '95, and if you've seen that little outline I sent you guys, I talk about the Renaissance period. And I think one of the things we have to really talk about, Chicago is very uniquely different than New York, than Florida, than what happens in Los Angeles, because Chicago is not the same market. Am I correct, George? Am I correct about this?
Yes. I mean, Chicago, you know, I worked in all these other markets, you know, with bigger promoters, and myself, I've done other shows in other markets. So Chicago, you know, is a very special market, you know, being in the center in the Midwest, you know what I'm saying? But I think that, you know, when it comes to salsa, you know, now, you know, we're trying to get back up there again, you know, with the promoters that are out there now, the musicians that are out there. And I think that, you know, a good point was brought is that, you know, original music. I think original music, you know, música propia, that, you know, the artists write and perform, is very important. We try to, you know, in Colombian Fest, you know, we're a young festival and we grew it from the ground up. You know, we're in 6 years. You know, and we try to, you know, bring as many local bands as possible. But again, you know, this is a special market. You know, I worked in New York. You know, New York, you know, used to be the capital of, you know, I don't want New Yorkers to get mad at me, but, you know, you know, that used to be, you know, in my times of my dad, you know, La Fania, you know, I had the honor to work with Rafi Mercado, you know, and all those guys. That was their heydays in the 60s and 70s.
Right, you know? Right. You're talking about Fania days.
Yeah, I think that was like the big, you know, where the whole, you know, before that you had like, you know, all the Cubans that came over in the earlier times that set up what, you know, what salsa is today, I guess. Even that term we were talking about, the term salsa in Colombia, you know, there's still like estaderos, bars, you know, the sound systems, you know, that's a stable for Colombia. I mean, and now I think that when I've been back the last couple times, salsa's alive, and like I can see everybody, all the old salseros and some of the new salseros. I go to Colombia, Barranquilla, Cali, Medellin, and Bogota, all those major cities. You're gonna find salsa clubs and live salsa throughout the week. That's the way New York used to be.
Well, speaking of Ralph Mercado, Jesus, you were signed
There
with
you go.
Records. You know, so
That's what I was leading. I said, hey,
all right. And so believe it or not, that was why, Jesus, I really wanted you to talk about it, because you were in the heydays of the RMM Records. And that kind of was my introduction to what salsa was in Chicago, because RMM Records with Elena, you know, doing the marketing promotions for all the, you know, for us DJs. And that was when live music was hot, you know, as far as the nightclubs, because you couldn't have a salsa night without a live band back then. And we're talking 90s, you know, 1990 to 2000. Am I correct?
There was, yeah, exactly. I think that was the best time of the history in salsa.
For Chicago though.
For Chicago, yeah, there was like 12 or 15 plays at the same day, and everybody had line to get in. Oh my God, that was so beautiful.
So Angel, we got
Right.
Angel online as well. Hey, Rod.
By that time,
Discúlpeme porque yo soy tarde, pero...
hi Angel.
Hey, guys. ¿Cómo está toda la gente, mis hermanos?
Bien, bien, bendiciones, mi hermano.
Sí, bendiciones. Y Andrés y Jesús, no me dijeron que habla inglés también, ¿sí?
No, yo tiro piedra en inglés.
Yeah, Angel,
Ahí vamos picando.
Angel was like, what do you mean he speak English? I go, they speak English to me all the time.
Like, I've known these guys, you know, so long, and they've never said anything in English. They've been fooling me. It's okay.
No, you know what it is like,
Well,
it's code switching. You know, when you're at the clubs, it's the same thing. I talk English all the time. When I'm around salseros, everybody's talking Spanish, you know, so you gotta talk Spanish.
and my situation is hard to speak English because I sing this en español y mi mundo todo ha sido en español, so it's hard to now trying to change my language. I think that they happen the same with my brother Gendris, right?
No, I arrived in 2012 with no English, absolutely nothing English. I had to learn at heart. I'm asking, I see movies, and I have to learn mandatory, but I didn't have time to go to the school here in the United States from where I arrived, because I had to look for a job, and then my English was in the way, in el camino.
Exactly.
I'm still learning.
Right. Well, I was telling Jesus, you were telling a story about and then that was, you said it was the heydays for you, but you were also performing all over the world at that time too. Am I correct? You were just, it wasn't just Chicago, but you were performing. Iron Man was taking you everywhere. Am I correct?
I had the opportunity to be most of the important cities in the world: Spain, Europe, France, Panama, and all United States. And Hector, he's right. Chicago is very particular about this genre salsa, and I think we need more people like you, like Hector, promoters, and the salsa could be back.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I wanted to make sure, that because that's why I have George on here and Angel. Like Angel, I had mentioned to the guys before we went live,
George,
that I had mentioned that me and you are probably the younger of the guys that are in this group here, because we didn't get into salsa till kind of later, me and you. you were a jazz musician and then you got into, and then you were playing at Tropicana. At the same time, I was DJing at Tropicana, but I didn't grow up in the Latin market like these guys that are with us right now.
Mhm.
So we
Right.
had a little different perspective of it. Andres is university taught out of Cuba, obviously. So he comes from the roots of the production in Cuba, and him coming to Chicago. And the reason why I'm bringing this up about the 90s, because the heydays were in the 90s, and that was something that, like you mentioned, George, it was strong. The local musicians were very strong. There was probably a good 10 to 12 bands at the same time. Am I correct about this, guys? I mean, and it wasn't just salsa. It was salsa and merengue was kind of the big thing, you know, Gabacho and Orchestra 911 and you, Jesus, and there was quite a few bands that were going on, but they were like you said, there was 15 places doing live music at the same time, and everybody lying out the door. Everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I didn't catch. I'm sorry.
There
I didn't
was
catch the
15
beginning.
places.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the beginning of the convo, but you know, obviously, I don't want to do any disrespect to los músicos de la 70 y 80 because those guys were here way before us in the 90s. I don't know what that scene was like. I hear a lot of great things, so I don't know if the heyday was the 90s. For me, it was because I wasn't playing in the 80s or the 70s, but Yambo and you know, La Distinguida and all those groups that were around before us, obviously, you know, are very pivotal to creating the scene that we have right now. That's even giving us the opportunity to thrive a little bit within this scene. So I want to definitely give them a shout out if we didn't already do that to all those musicians that came before us.
Right. Agree.
Yes. So I think could tell us better, George, or I don't know if he's George start by the same time like me in the 90s. George,
yeah,
you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I came in towards the late 80s. My first experience,
Like me.
so my first
Yes.
experience working, you know, even when I was in college at Columbia College, you know, I did radio, I did sound, I did arts management. Back then, I tried to implement, you know, a radio program at Columbia College, playing Latin music. You know, I was, you know, very heavy Colombian music, Cuban music. You know, I'm a big Fania guy, and I always looked up to, you know, a lot of the bigger, a lot of promoters that I looked up to. Which one was Raf Mercado. There's a good friend of mine that he used to be here in Chicago, Roberto Riadigo, who was
Yep.
very pitiable. He was bringing, you know, he was one of the earlier promoters that was bringing salsa, like, you know, back in the 80s and 70s. You know, there's a lot of other promoters that came in the early days that were doing the salsa. I remember there was a let me see, I'm not sure, like the, ¿cómo que se llama el sitio? Latin Village or algo así. I don't know if you guys remember that
Yeah,
place.
Latin Village.
You know, there was live music there, you know, back before. So, and again, you know, like Angel was saying, you know, we got to give props to all the bands that came before, because even, you know, I like to collect records, and I found a record. I found the record in Colombia, and when I looked at the cover, I gotta find it. I should have brought it, but it's back there somewhere. And it was a group. It was a, I think it was a mixed group. I don't have the name in front of me, but I'll put it on the post later on. But the band came from Chicago, and it was what was it? Something Leal.
La
maybe?
Típica.
La Típica. La Típica. It was La Típica with a number, because there was a few.
76.
Yeah, there was a few of them with different numbers.
Yeah.
So, but when I read the liner notes, for you young guys, the liner notes are the ones that come with the records, the LP. You know, it didn't come with the CD and the download. You know, I like the record because, you know, you got liner notes, And I was reading the liner notes. I said, hey, this group's from Chicago. And they recorded it at some studio. And the guys were, Chicago cats.
Right.
And I found the record, and I bought the record because I said, these are from Chicago. And I went home back to my country in Barranquilla, in this record spot that I buy, my records at. And here you go, in Colombia, in Barranquilla, in a small shop in El Centro, I find a record de Chicago. And I remember that conversation started. I started having conversations with other people. I said, yeah, like in the set, because I think in the 70s, I came in 71. I was 6 years old, so I wasn't, I didn't know what was going on. But but I always had salsa in my house. My dad, my uncle, they always play salsa. They always play Cuban music. We're in Christmas now, Thanksgiving es puro aguinaldos, Puerto Rican Christmas music, la música cubana. That's all you heard in my house, along with the Colombian music.
Well, Salvador online said La Típica 73. That was the name of the group. La Típica 73.
Okay, thank you. Yes, yeah, I knew it was a Típica because, like I said, I was.
Well, I mean that's what I'm saying. And I'm seeing comments coming in about the 70s were great, 80s are great, and I know that, and I know they were great and stuff like that. But when the 90s came around, and only specifically, I have to say the 90s because that's what I kind of know, is that's when it wasn't just Latinos loving salsa; it was everybody loving salsa. Because in the 70s and 80s, it was like Latinos were like that exclusive club of salseros. And salsa, people who love salsa, and then all of a sudden in the 90s, it kind of blew up. I mean, I remember just, and I walked in the club and it was white, black, Asian, just in the club in the 90s. And I was like, when I used to DJ at Tropicana, I used to be like, oh my God, I guess I'm not the only one that doesn't speak Spanish. So that was kind of where I remember in the 90s. I think it also, we as, I was born in 64. So I think what happened is some of the kids of those people in the 70s, they grew up and they were listening to salsa at home, and all of a sudden here they're 21 and over and they're like, oh, I can go to the club. And what's the first club they're going to go to? A salsa club. It's not a teen club. It's like, hey, I'm going where I know the music. So that's what I would see is people, especially when they were 21, they were going to, and if you remember, a lot of clubs, they had multi-rooms. It wasn't just salsa rooms. They had a salsa room and they had like a dance room as well. So there was that variety that you went into a club. It wasn't just a salsa club anymore. It was a variety of rooms, hence 720, like for instance. So,
Exactly.
That's why I'm, again, not disrespecting the 80s or the 70s. I know they're great and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would like to mention, like I said, there was, a very important person that on that level of promoting was the late Marcelino Ramos.
Yeah, I agree. 1,000% on that.
He was very instrumental. I know with Jesus too, and then there was a lot of guys like Mike Rivera, our friend Jesus. Mike Rivera. I think he was in a bunch of bands. Mike, the bass player. So I think he moved to Florida, and that was the migration. And I think that's what happened in Chicago, that when the salsa market shifted, like a lot of the musicians in the earlier part, I think in the 80s, 90s, and I think Jesus could testify to this, a lot of the people that were musicians in Chicago, they went to New York, se fueron a Nueva York. And then when New York died, everybody ended up in Florida,
Yep.
And I think there's more Puerto Ricans from Chicago in Florida now than anywhere else. I think Jesus, you can testify to that. How did you,
That's right.
that your migration, you went from Chicago to New York?
That's right. And by the 96, 98, when there was my real big time, the place was full. And then something happened. The public, there was law in Chicago, and I was, what happened? And one time, I was playing in Florida, and the floor, there was all people of the 90s here. There was over there, and I was, what happened? Because everybody go to the Florida, and I think the new people, we gotta do the same. By that time, there was a lot of bands and a lot of places, and today I think we gotta start to construct again, us, like you, yours, like you, Prieto, and you're doing real good, George. The last year there was a great festival that you give me the opportunity to play, and
No,
this
no,
year
thank you.
there was
Well,
weird because I
yeah,
don't, right?
No, Prieto,
well,
I,
I think,
I
you know,
can
the,
do a great job with everybody of you, Prieto, Ortega with the Colombian Fest, Prieto with bringing Latin music, bringing salsa to all the states that he como organiza. También Ángel Rodríguez, always writing staff, salsa staff for everybody, always in La Alhambra, the last place, el último lugar que tiene. Are you doing a great job? Because every time that I can go, I see new scene. I see people from Miami coming, salsero from Miami, from California, from New York. And it's a great scene to do about the salsa, because I see the Chicago, after the 90s, Chicago become like the museo, no?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, Andres, I think one of the things that, and if you talk about it, I think one of the things that we can all agree on, that 9/11 happened in Chicago. I mean, 9/11 happened in New York, but I mean, right after 9/11, it kind of put a different take on the live music, because I think it was in 2001, bands kind of disappeared from the nightclub, from the salsa scene. It became more DJs. And I remember that, and and if you had a salsa night in 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, and I remember this, and I'll tell you, and Tito Puente Jr. was booked for September 18 at Tropicana. It was at Tropicana. I had booked them, and it happened, 9/11 happened, and I remember I called up Tito and I said, hey man, this isn't going to happen. And I remember at the same time, Ruben was doing Sapphires at the time. And I remember then all of a sudden the bands had kind of slowed down. I remember at that time, all the bands had kind of slowed down because people were very wary of this. And the reason why I bring up 9/11, it kind of reminds me of what's happening now with the COVID aspect of it, because the nightclub aspect of it slowed down quite a bit. And I think what happened is people held back. And George, maybe in the marketing promotion aspect of it, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think people held back, and nightclub owners / promoters, because there weren't a lot of promoters. There were more nightclubs were doing their own events, and they were the promoters. And I think what happened is that it became an issue of money for a lot of people right after 9/11. So a DJ was more affordable than a live band, because a live band, you're talking about,
yeah, I think you're right, Pedro, because, a lot of people know I was actually in New York and New Jersey when 9/11 happened. I did an event the weekend of 9/11. The attack happened, I think, Tuesday, and I was in New York doing an event. We did it on Saturday. It was probably the most successful event I had. We did it was like a celebrity car show. It was packed. We busted the doors. It was nuts. And then as soon as 9/11 happened, the whole industry changed. I was working, I left Chicago, and I was working in Dallas at a radio station group, which is now Univision. But we moved a September 16 festival. We moved it back like a month. But after that, I think the whole industry changed, completely. There was no shows for a while. you know, and then people were, like you said, people were scared, you know, should I go out in these big, massive events, you know, the big festivals.
Sounds like today, right?
Yeah.
Now you got, but I think 2020 compared to 9/11, 2020 has been worse.
Right,
Because-
and I know, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So Jesus, you being a live artist, how did that affect you in the 9/11 aspect of it? I mean, here you are, you were hot, you were the thing. So what happened for you as an artist?
Completely like day of night, completely nothing,
Right.
not even one gig for 5 or 6 months, because everybody was scared to go out. And then when we was talk to the owner of the clubs, they say, no, you know what, I make with the DJ, and they said, we don't need band no more. And I was, wow, really? And they start little by little to call me, but that was real hard,
Right.
real hard.
And Andres, you were in Cuba at the time. Did it affect you
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah, I seen there was a universal event in the Torre Gemela in New York. Was a universal event in Cuba. We failed too. I was working in the area of the hotels in Guadalajara. It's a place at the oriente of Cuba. It's a beautiful beach. I was playing like leading a band about 10 years from 1998 to 2008, right? And when we at the Gemela, the Torre Gemela was 2001, right? 11, no? 2001, 2001, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2001. Okay. Every bar stop. No había trabajo, poco trabajo para tocar también. Afectó a Cuba, igual, afectó a todo el mundo, creo, ¿no? No tanto como acá. Not too much, but was hard. Yeah, I remember that part. But here in Chicago, I think was the affect a lot, afectó muchísimo a los músicos. Como dice Jesús Enrique, del día a la mañana no hubo trabajo, ¿no? Like now, como ahora.
And Angel, how did it affect you? How did it affect you, Angel?
Yeah, well, back then I wasn't a band leader, but as just a sideman, as a musician, I obviously, I got on the scene like right at the heyday. So '96 for me was when I got into the Chicago scene. I'd already previously played like in the suburbs, like in Aurora, and then I worked on a cruise ship as a musician. And then when I came back to the city, it was right away like Freddie Kenton and Carlitos Rey, Willie Sabor, and Jesus. Orchestra. So I mean, it was like I was playing with all these giants at the same time. So for me, that was the heyday. And then for me, 9/11, obviously slowed down the whole industry. And then my observation of it was that after 9/11, like people were like everyone has said, very unsure. Is it safe to come back out and stuff like that? And then little by little, people were coming out, and obviously financially, business owners had to be careful with. We can't invest monies in bands like we used to because the money's not coming in the door yet. And like you said, Greta, what I saw was the shift from dealing directly with business owners and restaurant owners to now venues that had like a salsa night during the week. And that was a private promoter that would rent out the place for that particular night. So it became much more DJ oriented. And so now they became the figurehead. And as bands were negotiating with the DJs, little by little, people were coming out, and eventually got to the point where the places were packed without bands. So it's like, as a private promoter, what's the financial interest to shell out another $1,000 if you have a packed place without a band? So it's very difficult. On their end, it would take a promoter that was like very culturally incentive to keep the culture alive, because if you were just about the money, it was very easy to not have bands, but there really wasn't a need to. So we do appreciate you and and the other promoters that tried to keep live music going at that time, because you could have very easily just said, I'll just pocket this extra $1,000 and what do I need a band for? So, and kind of the shift in the demographics of people that came out, like you said previously, is it went from primarily Hispanic to very mixed culture. Dancing with the Stars, So You Think You Can Dance, all that stuff was coming out on TV, and all of a sudden there was this huge influx in people very interested in learning how to Latin dance. And so like at your events, but I thought only because I worked for you for so long, I saw a big shift in, when the bands were playing from a mainly Hispanic crowd that would follow their favorite band around pre 9/11 to post 9/11. A lot of those salseros kind of, life changes. People get married, people get divorced, whatever happens. And some people walk away from the club scene. They're getting a little bit older in life. And the new younger people coming out, there was a shift to much more Caucasian, Eastern European, African American, everything, which was great for us to have so many more people that loved the music. But on the downside of that, people that weren't that culturally sensitive to understanding that, live music is very important. And any Spanish people that grew up going to festivals in whatever countries they came from understood that. But now we had this whole new demographic that was like $15. I'll just go on a free night, or I'll just go on a $5 night with the DJ, because they really didn't see the difference on the importance of having live music.
Well,
That was my observation.
right. I think George can attest to this, that we personally, and George, I may be talking for you, but I think personally, we made a decision that we didn't look at it as always the money. We looked at it as the scene, and that's why we decided to do live music more so. Personally, that's me, but I know for, and people have no clue how much a festival costs and how much money you make out of a festival.
Yeah.
And people have no clue what an event on a daily basis. And with, it's not about how much money you're taking in, it's about the scene. And I give props to Michael Oquendo. I give props to everybody who, Marcelino Ramos, because it was, especially after 9/11, it was tough to do live music. It was very tough. So, and it's a risk. It's a very economical risk. And, I think George, you can pretty much chime into this about how for you it changed as far as after 9/11 doing live music.
No, yeah. I mean, I think, like I remember, I used to mix, did some sound, back in Tropicana days, Sapphire days. I did a lot of the sound production for Marcelino's events at Excalibur. I've done production for, Henry Cardenas and all these other promoters. So, as an event professional, we're like on the bottom, we were always at the bottom of the list, because you figure if you have to pay the band, then you got to pay the sound guy, so we were always like, like I said, but again, back to your question is that, I've been in this is all my life, and I tell people, music is life. And I made a decision when I went to college. Even, my parents back then didn't understand, what I went to school for. They go, they're old school parents, they don't understand, like, oh, I got an arts degree, I got a sound engineering degree, and I got all this other stuff. But my dad used to say, "Pero qué es eso? Won't you be a doctor, a lawyer, algo que te va a hacer plata?" And my dad, you do something that's gonna make you money. Hey, dude, I didn't make any money for a long time. You know what I'm saying? My first gig, I made $25 and some White Castles, and I was happy. But now things change, because you got family, you got kids, you got mortgage, so it's a big risk. A lot of people don't understand that this is an art form. I respect all the musicians, because I wanted to be a musician too, but I had an music teacher told me that I couldn't sing a note, I couldn't carry a note, I couldn't write a note. So I said, well, what's the best next thing? I'll run the show then. I always, I'm not a musician, but I like music, right?
Right.
So that's why I got into the industry, not because I was going to make a lot of money. Because when I went to college, people were like, dude, you're not going to make money. How much, you become a roadie, or you become a successful guy on a tour, maybe you'll make some money. But as a promoter back then, I didn't have a lot of people to look at, and the people that were around, they started from the ground up, and they made it, and they risked, like big promoters right now, they lost money, I remember going to the Aragon and there was a salsa show and dude, but dieron plata. It was packed and they lost money. I don't know.
Yep,
You know,
yep.
and you know, because it was the genre. And in Chicago, you know, I think that, you know, it's a very the risk, you know, people think, oh, that place was packed. I get this all the time. Oh, you made money. I said, bro, you know how much it, like you said, you know how much it costs to do a festival? You're flying all these people, you got to pay everybody. You know, and I always believe that, you know, as a promoter, you know, as a booking agent, you want to make, you know, pay the guys, you know what I'm saying? Because I've done shows, dude. You know, I've done shows that, you know, I fight with my wife. Is, you know, si te plata, well, I gotta pay the musicians, I gotta pay everybody. Everybody gets paid before I get paid. You know what I'm saying? That's the way it works. You pay the band, you pay the sound guy, you pay the venue, and then maybe you walk away with $100. You
Well,
know, and you spend that on Golden Nugget on the verse.
Yeah. Well, I want to say shouts out to Tito Puente Jr. joining us, Maggie Garcia. You know, everybody, we all know those names. So shouts out to you guys.
Aggie.
But they bring up some good points, and I think the Salsa Congress, the Salsa schools, I think that changed also a lot of this scene after 9/11, because all of a sudden here comes the, you know, and I think everybody plays an important role. So I don't want you to say that like salsa dance schools didn't play a role, the Chicago salsa, everybody plays a role in the whole Chicago salsa scene. And the reason why I bring that up, and that comes almost like right after 9/11, all the way to maybe 2012, when Enriquez got to Chicago.
Yeah.
That played an important role because it almost was like a buildup that had to happen between, you know, and let's Recita and Saladin, they did a risk. When they did the Salsa Congress, they did a huge risk, you know, doing these 4 days and bringing these big artists that we normally wouldn't see. It was a big risk. And I remember that, you know, and I remember the first, you know, the first festival you did, George, and the first Cuban Fest, and the first, everybody did the first, it was empty. You know, the first one's always empty, and everybody like doesn't understand that because it takes building. And I think that's very important for, especially when it comes to Chicago. And I'm always talking about Chicago because we are a unique market than the East Coast and the West Coast. We're in the middle, and not to say anything against Wisconsin, Ohio, or Indiana. I'm just talking about Chicago because of the fact that it's kind of the hub of the Midwest. You know, we are in the middle of it. And I think when I started seeing the growth, Angel, tell me if I'm wrong. I think I started seeing the growth happen in 2005. Is that correct? When we started seeing live bands coming into play more?
That's probably around the time when it came back a little bit. Never, you know, as a musician, I can only speak on the musician side of this, but as a musician, it never attained the heyday of pre 9/11 as far as the size of the bands. The musicians, you know, fundamentally we're still making the same amount of money, but it was just watered down because now it was a smaller group. But that was, you know, the financial constraints that everyone was dealing with. Promoters were doing the best they could. You know, we were still trying to get a new generation of followers willing to pay for live music, and you know that one, I'm sure Jorge, you know that too. It's still a struggle to get people to see the value sometimes in live music. But one thing I would like to say is the dance community pre 9/11. Unless I was just ignorant of it at the time, I don't recall as many dance schools. That all, I think, shifted post 9/11. So what I would like to say is that, you know, pre 9/11, the best dancers were in the clubs with us all the time. It was great to see them out. You know, there was no animosity between the dancers or the musicians. As a matter of fact, that, you know, you would have like large followings of people that would go see Jesus wherever he went. If he was at Excalibur, they'd go to Excalibur. If he was at Village Cafe, they'd go to Village Cafe. Tanya's, wherever he was, Jesus would have his following. You know, 809 would have their following. And, you know, and everyone was cool with each other. And that was a great scene. I would like to say that post 9/11, when all the dance companies opened up, we lost all of our top dancers from the scene because now they started their own dance companies, which was great to have an influx of educators out there teaching the new generation. But one thing that we lost was the quality of the dancing out there, just because those leaders really didn't participate in our scene anymore. They were more focused on their dance companies and having socials to fundraise for their own companies, which we understand. But it would be nice to, post COVID, to try to get that, that relationship back with the best dancers, because we really don't see them unless there's a contest, and then they'll come out and they'll come win some money and then they disappear again. So
Maggie says she 1000% agrees with you.
I would love to see that relationship, and not them just coming to us. I would love to collaborate as a band with some of these dance companies for their socials and things like that. I know that some of the groups would hire some of the bands for some things at their dance companies, but I would like to see a lot more back and forth of that, just so that, because we are one big community, whether it's the musicians, the music lovers, and the dance instructors. It's like, I would like for us to be able to, moving forward, become more of a unit.
I agree. Andres, so in 2013, you came pretty much in the heyday. I mean, of the resurgence, I should say, after 9/11. Did you immediately start playing with bands, or were you always doing the production at that time?
You say here after 2012?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. One of the first band I played with Everardo in Alhambra, Everardo. I remember that he arrived to somebody say I was about three months only here in Chicago. I was arriving in November, and the show was in January in Alhambra place. I didn't know him, but somebody said to him, "Hey, there is a Cuban the piano player that he arrived," and he went to my home. "Hey, are you Cuban?" "Yeah." "Take the papers." Are you sure?" "Take the papers. See you tomorrow in Alhambra." "Hey, but you don't know me, man. I never played with you." No problem. "Are you from Cuba?" Take the papers. See you." I remember I seen the Angel. I remember I seen that you was in that show. That there was a Cuban singer from New York. I don't remember her name, but she was imitando a Celia Cruz.
Sí, sí.
Yeah, you was in that show, right?
Sí.
She never arrived.
Preto, that was oh man, I'm sorry, I forgot her name.
Alhambra.
But her name begins with a A, right? God, we talked about her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Her name will come back up. Go ahead.
The rehearsal was at 6. In this rehearsal, I knew Freddy Cervantes, the bass player. I meet a lot of Latin musicians that now are my friend. But was my first gig here in Chicago, and Everardo paid to me in the rehearsal $200. He said, "Oh, my first gig is $200 is good." And we was in the rehearsal, but not all the musicians, about 5 or 6 musicians. The rest of the musicians had to arrive directly to the show at 8. But the show never happened because the manager said that he was assault.
Ese promotor dijo que fue el robo.
Right. It was a Thursday. It was a Thursday night at Alhambra. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, do you remember that? Was my first gig here in Chicago. The good thing that he paid to me the full money, Everardo. He paid to me. Not show. No. I paid you. I promise, and you was in the rehearsal. This is your money. But it was my first experience. But the most important thing was that I knew a lot of people. That David, some guy from Aurora, and Angel wasn't there. All the trumpet. I remember. Was my introduction to the music here in Chicago, to the Latin music. Okay. It was a nice experience because they start calling me. Okay, I have a gig tattoo. Remember, everybody start. I start knowing the people that now are my support, my friends.
Yeah, it was Arisa Gathers.
Yeah, Anissa.
Yeah, Arisa Gathers. Yeah, that was the
Gathers.
The name of the okay.
Y Yandris, una pregunta. ¿Cuándo llegaste aquí desde Cuba? ¿Pero llegaste con trabajo aquí o no fue nada?
No. I left Cuba in 2012 in January. From Cuba, I went to Mexico to play with my band. The band was only 3 girls and me. 3 girls in the like reggaeton music, like a fusion with merengue track. I play piano with a track, and 3 girls in tres mulatas cubana, right? In front, dancing and singing. And I was in Mexico from February to to November, and I arrived here in November 2012. I crossed the border. You know, before the law adjustment law from the Cuban people, they arrived and gave the paper automatically because the law. I arrived in 2012. In Chicago, because a friend of mine, I went to. Yo iba a ir para Miami, pero un amigo me dijo, okay, let's go to Chicago. I have a lot of friends in Chicago. At the end, I arrived here in Chicago and I stayed from 2012 to now in Chicago. I'm happy. I love Chicago. I don't like the cold, but el frío no me gusta, pero I love Chicago. And I love all the music of Chicago.
Hay una palma con el.
Sí, sí. I hope he's not reporting from a nude beach. Put on some clothes before you come on.
So we have Carlos.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, right now.
Carlos, we can't see you.
Pero con respecto a la música, the question that you said, con respecto a la música, lo que yo vi, how I saw when I arrived to Chicago in my first experience in the music, is that the Chicago, I feel that because I play in this band and I play this repertoire, and then I move in my beginning here in Chicago, I play with a lot of bands. Today with Tato, tomorrow with Ilusiones in Indiana, after with other band, 3 or 2 or 3 bands in every week. It was that was a good time for the salsa. I seen because everybody was playing in 2013, 2014, but the problem is, I play here in this band, no le pega la negra, and in the other band I play no le pega la negra, and in the other band I play the same. And when I go to the club, the DJ is playing no le pega la negra too. What happened? No? And I feel that is the same thing that was nice. It was good because estábamos ganando dinero, right? It's good, but that thing fue contra de nosotros, against us, because we stay right there after the Gemela, after the New York, the problem in New York. I seen that we stay nice in club playing about the same. And we don't start doing new scene. Not everybody, but I say the 90% of us.
You're talking about original music, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, original music. Oh, yeah. For example, if you're gonna play a tribute, okay, try to do like Cuco, a new regimen about a new scene about. Okay, not the same. Kimala, Celia. Okay, try to do something new about that. Try to do. It was I was in conflict with that when I arrived here. Why? Let me explain for you. When I was in Cuba, I was a musician. No, I studied music and was a musician. No, like here, for example, you can do other jobs and music at time, and you can do good in both. In Cuba, no. In Cuba, you are a musician. You are a musician. It's your job. Okay, no other jobs. But okay, in Cuba, on your own band, you have for you para ser director, okay, de una banda, you have to have 99% original song. 99. You can play one song of other band, 1 or 2 songs of other band, but if you don't have 99% of your original song, you can play music. Yeah, they don't authorize to you to put a band together. I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing, but you can see the band, good band or really bad band in Cuba, or better or worse, but they all have original music. And I are right here with this concept, not to okay. And then I start in conflict with that. Everybody with the same repertoire or 5 songs, Llorarás, No le pega la negra, y Kimbara, y 3 songs. It's good thing was good thing because estábamos ganando dinero, pero yo digo que estuvo en contra de la salsa, ¿ok? Pero ¿para qué Ortega me va a pagar a mí $1,000 si puede traer al grupo que toca lo toca de verdad original? ¿Para qué entonces, es un ejemplo, ¿verdad? Si tú tienes en el festival a quien toca vámonos para el monte, al original. ¿Para qué me vas a pagar a mí? No me puedes pagar igual si va a venir el que lo toca original. Entonces, yo creo que el momento que empezamos a decaer la salsa started down was when we stopped, or the people in that time stopped to doing new song or new music. No sé si están de acuerdo conmigo. Creo que para lograr revivir eso, tenemos que empezar a hacer cosas nuevas y para empezar a hacer cositas nuevas, ¿no? Aportar o aportarle a lo que está hecho cosas nuevas, ¿no? No sé si están de acuerdo conmigo.
Yo creo que hablando de eso, en el punto de vista de un promotor, and the point of view of a promoter, like I think that, you know, the club owner was a different guy. He wanted the place to be packed. So if they knew that that's what you're going to play, you know, it becomes, for you to play original music back then, you know, you could have done it. You know, but like you said, it became where everybody was playing the same music, the same covers. It was a lot easier to play the same covers because a lot of the times I think, you know, I blame the management of these venues because they did not encourage, you know, original music, you know, like it, you know, in the American scene, is totally different, right? But in the salsa scene, you know, there was only a few artists in Chicago, you know, and that had the time to create that music. The talent is here.
Yeah, a lot of talent.
Talent, dude. I don't have, you know, I brought artists from all over, and everybody, you know, I got Calito on the line, you know, Richie, all these guys, you know, Roy. I mean, there's a lot of dudes here that I work with. Hey, lo piden. Mira, vamos, yo quiero la banda de so-and-so. Because they know Chicago musicians are good. They're excellent. They know how to read music, you know, but I think that, like you said, Andres, is that, you know, it takes a big effort to come out with your own album, your own original music, and the people are going to accept it. I mean, it's going to take time because you have to set it up, you know, where, you know, even the professional, even the big musicians, you know, when you know, like my customers will say, yo traigo a Fruco, for instance, right? What do they want to hear from Fruco? The same songs that you guys are playing. Fruco introduced one new song. Mira, tengo una canción nueva con este tipo, and you play towards the end of the set in the middle. So even the big salsa artists have that issue.
No solo los músicos de Chicago, no only, mundial. Todos los salseros se quedaron.
Even Mark Anthony. You go to a Mark Anthony concert, what do you hear? It's the same songs, his same repertoire. I can tell you what he's going to play next. He will introduce one song, two songs, maybe per concert tour because of the demand of the people, you know. Right. Y nosotros mal acostumbramos.
Pero al menos ellos lo crearon, ellos crearon esa canción, right? Ellos la hicieron.
Sí, no, pero
nosotros estamos homenajeándolo a ellos que la hicieron, ¿verdad? Y a nosotros, ¿quién nos va a homenajear después?
Sí. La gente, the people, como dicen, están mal acostumbrados, right? We ourselves as an industry, you know, that's what we gave our people, you know, so now we have an opportunity. Yeah. And I've been seeing what's happening with COVID. I've seen a lot of live shows, and now the bands are introducing, you know, their own new music in this platform. Yeah. I hope that, you know, we get back. I think we're going to get back next year. You know, our events and our opening clubs.
Well, that's
where the room is at. I think we have to come out and present new music, you know, for this big audience.
That's the key thing. I think, Carlos, you can attest to this. When you now that this is all happening, what's happening now, COVID, let's talk about exactly what this is about. We're talking about, and you know, live music was happening right before COVID. It was you know, 2018, 2019, just the early part 2019, we started seeing this resurgence of it. And then now COVID hits. So I guess the tricky part is, nobody knows when, because we're all up in the air. We're assuming that it's going to be April. Okay. We're assuming here comes a vaccine. Here comes, people are going to get comfortable, like 9/11 aspect. We talked about 9/11. I don't know. Were you able to catch any of the live feed before you jumped on at all, Carlos?
Actually, my birthday's tomorrow, and they
Okay.
surprised me with a dinner today,
Ah,
and that's why. And then I'm actually in Florida right now, and we're an hour ahead. And I said, no, it's at 9, but it was 9 o'clock Eastern, right?
okay.
So it's partially my fault. So I
All right.
apologize.
No.
guys.
So we were talking about how the heyday of live music, and then 9/11 happened, and that kind of killed, that kind of what you call. So I kind of am, it's almost a resemblance of 9/11 with the COVID, meaning
Mhm.
that it stopped the industry, but it stopped the industry in the live music aspect in 9/11, but this stopped the industry completely because of
Right.
COVID. It stopped everybody. So I guess the question is, and that's why we have this roundtable, is where do you think we're is, because I hear so many theories about it. Variety magazine says one thing, and where do you think, I think I'm going to do individually. How do you think, if it was to open up tomorrow,
Mhm.
boom, we're open up tomorrow. Do you think the platform, we're on the same level now? Or do you think it's this whole, what's been set up before? What do you think is going to going forward? What do you think as far as us doing live music, salsa business, and all across the board?
Me personally, I think people are hungry to go back out.
Okay.
So I feel that they want to go out now, even though they can't. So right before the second shutdown, people were starting to do things again, and like HVAC had bands on Tuesdays and things of that nature, but it was outside. But if we open up little by little and we start putting bands again, I think people will adjust because they've been shut down for almost a year at that point. So that I don't think they're gonna miss a beat. That's just my opinion. Some people are gonna be still leery about going out, but a lot of people are still trying to go out now. So if you say let's do it, I think places like Cubby Barrel will jump right back on. I think the festivals, because they're outside, are gonna be they're gonna be very successful. People just want to go out, and that's outside. So I don't think that's gonna miss a beat.
Well, George, speaking of festival, because you try to do something that was, and I seen some people do it. Some people were successful, some people weren't, with the drive-through. And one of the things that I think that as far as the drive-through was concerned, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, but I think drive-through was a great Band-Aid, but let's honestly, when it comes to live music, it's about connection with people.
Well, I think you're right, and Carlos, I think you're on the same track. Just today, I mean, I see a good sign. The Park District opened up their portal, and I Ortega Brothers already submitted for 3 festivals in the parks for 2021, which that means is a good sign. And I think that the economics of what's happening with COVID in the city of Chicago, the cities, they're battling with this budget, that all this deficit or whatever. The state's going to borrow $2 billion. So I think the people are going to be hungry as soon as they give the word. And I think that like when you see those videos, people are waiting at the line, at the line of the race line, waiting for the green flag to say go. So I think that we're preparing to have outdoor events next summer and other events, but we're gonna adjust. I think that even though there's a vaccine, I'm a person that looks at every angle. Even if there's a vaccine, there's still going to be a lot of people that might not get it yet. And so I think that the summertime, I think we'll be at like 80%. be able to open, have that kind of people in a big outdoor space. So we have to make those adjustments. So if they come back, the city says, hey, you can have a festival, but these are the restrictions. We got to deal with those, as they come. So right now their thing, the clause is still there. I'm assuming till about January when they're gonna start, asking for more paperwork. So I think that's hopeful. And I think that, you know, I think most of the events are gonna be online, to be honest with you. Come August, September, October. The big promoters are already promoting the big concerts indoor for the fall. The
Well,
summer,
I seen that with, what's it, over at Allstate Arena, right? They're gonna
yeah,
have,
there's
Ricky
a,
Martin.
there's a bunch of shows coming out. Like I said, those guys, they don't. I mean, they got millions, so they can wait out. But the little guys, they're the ones that are struggling. There's a lot of promoters, a lot of clubs, a lot of venues shut down. So I think that for the live scene here in Chicago, we're gonna have to rebuild, again. And I think it'll be a good opportunity for the live music scene here in Chicago to come back up, not just for salsa, but for bachata, merengue, for the tropical stuff, and for the other musics. But again, 2021, my forecast is, we should be good, like Carlito says, with the festivals being outdoors, but the food vendors, all that stuff, everything that's changed. The way we handle our crowd is changed. And the way 9/11 happened, the same thing's gonna happen with COVID. There's a lot of stuff that's not gonna go away. The protection, people wearing masks, all that kind of stuff, all those precautions, it's not going to change. It's going to take at least 2 years for the industry.
Well, just like 9/11, there were changes that happened with 9/11 as well.
Yeah, they're still in place.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I told that to somebody else. I sat into a security meeting for 9/11 in Texas with even FBI and Secret Service people and all this stuff. And some of those things are still in place today.
Right.
For anti-terrorist things. But again, I think the industry is going to come back, and like Carlito says, people are hungry. Like right now, like I said, we try to do an event, and you can tell it's an age, the age group is different. The young people, those are the ones that are out there now. They don't care. They're gonna go out. But yeah, the older people, which some of those people are the ones that go to the festivals, that they left the club scene. They'll go once a week maybe, or once a month. Those are the people, the older generation are going to be a little bit more reserved, but they're going to go out. They're going to wear their mask and get protected. The younger folks, you've seen what's happening. So I think that once this vaccine goes, people are going to run to get a beer, to hang out with friends. Like I said, music is life, man. I miss being on the stage. I miss, going
I think we all do.
everybody. Dude, come on. It's like I've been locked up. I've been locked up all summer, and you got to protect yourself. I'm what do they call me? I'm in the high risk group. So
Well, I mean, but do you think, because what I'm seeing online, I give props out to all the band members. They're making a lot of new music, and making this point. I'm seeing that because people are locked down, and not in the salsa scene, but in everybody's scene. One of the things that I think that happened, and this is talking to some producers, that you producers like you, you kind of already built in a COVID aspect of it, because you're in a studio. That's kind of you're in a separate room. It's kind of built in. So people who are doing studio work this is kind of ideal for them. So all they do is making new music now. And I'm noticing like, what's his name? There's, what are the two groups, Angel? You had him on there, trombone player.
Which, I'm sorry,
Pico?
which one are you talking about?
Making music now. They're making music. They're doing the studio. There's the percussionist as well.
Afincao.
Well, I know Nathan has his.
Nathan
yeah,
as well.
Nathan has his,
Nathan.
Right,
Nathan
Nathan
has his
Afincao.
music production
and
going on.
Africa
Right now.
and stuff like that. And that's what I'm wondering, because of the lockdown aspect of it. And like I said, I talking to another producer, house, Steve Silcurley and DJ Skip, they were saying how they were even making more new music now because they're kind of stuck into the studio.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying for you, Jesus. I think you're also making new music as well. You're making
Yes.
music as well. So I'm wondering if this isn't going to have a good resurgence with all these artists that are from Chicago, musician wise, to start coming out with new music. And then when it opens up in April, we're going to have all this brand new music. So your thoughts,
Yeah.
guys?
Yes.
A lot of musicians was the good part of this. One of the few good part of the COVID was lockdown was a lot of musicians had to start knowing or learning how streaming, or they bought his own microphone for record from home, and they started doing new music from home, saxophone like Roy McGrath, everybody. I record online with a lot of musicians. Osvaldo Avilés, he bought his own a sound card, his computer, and everything for be ready for record from home, and it's a good thing. For you are ready, you are ready. You're a trumpet player. You have in your home one microphone and one sound card and computer, and you can record for other people in Japan and Europe, in any place. It's good for all that stuff. Is good for the personal growing in the musicians.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I know Joe Mendes on my watch party, and I think that, a lot of props to them, Enrique Jr., Jesus, all the guys that are putting out like new original music. But and I'm sure CeeLo can attest to this. Kind of, as local musicians, we've been dealing with a certain price point for so many years that we're still trying to. It's still a battle. And it's not a battle against any particular promoter. It's just a battle against the culture right now, just because it's difficult to get the dollars. And believe me, if the dollars were pouring in through the door, the promoters would be giving it to us. So it's just a matter of getting, the crowd culturally educated, like Yanderis was saying. In Cuba, yeah, you're not going to be playing kimba. I mean, that's part of their culture, number one. So that's like playing some hokey, 1920 music for us that people are like, why are you playing that? Out there, they're very advanced. They're dealing with a demographic of people that know the music very well. Out here, it's a much different demographic. People want to hear music that they know. And kind of like my business plan for my group was, to try to get a following of the group. And then once we get that following, try to do original music, which is what I wanted to do this year. But also with that comes a different price point. You're not going to pay the local bands that have been paying cover songs that all of a sudden they're putting all this time into original music, and you're still going to pay them the same amount of money. So obviously that becomes a new price point. So people like Joe and them, if Afincao does a whole show of their original music, they should be paid differently than if they're doing a whole night of cover songs. So which may limit what we can do here locally, because we understand the dollars and the cents of it. If the money's not there, it's not there. Then we have to look outside of our city and look into different festivals in different cities, and I mean, just for us to be able to thrive too, because we want to do original music, but we want to be compensated appropriately in order to do that too. I know like CeeLo, his thing is mainly like one of the premier backup bands, versus I'm much more into the local scene of playing and stuff. I do some backup stuff too, but he's much more on the forefront of that. So maybe he could speak to that as far as price point of original music versus cover songs.
Back in early 2000s, most of the bands, they had their own material. They had their own albums. You had Calito Rey, Jesus had a couple of albums at that time. You had Sabol had his album, but people knew those songs. But then, unfortunately, when things took a turn, and I think 9/11 was one of the turning points as well, the band had to get smaller. So now when Jesus first started, he had 12, 13 guys in his band. But then as time progressed and he said, hey, I want X amount of dollars for my band because I have 13 people and I have 2 albums. They told him, unfortunately, we can't pay that, but we're going to pay this other band. There's only 7 guys and they're going to play Victor Manuel. They're going to play Mark Anthony. They're going to play this. And so the big bands, they started dying. And it happened in Miami, it happened in New York. And the days of the big band, they started dwindling. And so at that point, I felt I was part of the big band era. And then I'm also part of the smaller band era. And I thought to myself, why do all this new material? When you do the new material, it's hard to sound amazing with 7 guys when your recording is 13, 14 guys on it. So now you have to re-record stuff and make it smaller. And it really doesn't sound as great as you want it to. So you have to do the best you can now. And that's where the dollars, unfortunately, they don't add up. But you have to adjust to whatever the market is, because when bands take a stand, then a lot of promoters will say, I'll just get 3 DJs and be done with it.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe George, you might know a little bit more, and then Jesus, you might know a little bit, but especially in Chicago, I think what hurt live band music was the lack of radio as well here, because that changed because there was no salsa radio here. Where in the East Coast and the West Coast, you had the salsa radio, and here in Chicago, you didn't have it. Or let's say Lackey's Darbuka was the last of it, and that kind of and I remember being in discussion, and when I was working with Ivan, that was the whole thing. Is about they would fight me because I was a big supporter of salsa music, and obviously because I knew where it was going and what was happening if they start taking away the radio. And I remember that was like a big argument. And let's be honest with you, when it came to Chicago, they sorry about that. I remember that Chicago was a big Mexican market. So they were always focused on the Mexican market. They wouldn't focus on the tropical market. And that's where the money was and all the sponsorships. And I remember it was just, when they switched over to X Tropical and they went into the reggaeton and they changed the market, it hurt the tropical market here in Chicago. I mean, am I right? The guys, am I wrong about this?
You're right.
No.
Oh yeah, somebody actually mentioned that. I think it was Matthew. He mentioned about the radio station. There's no support. I worked like 5 years with radio stations and the Hispanic broadcasting and then became Univision. I was sort of disillusioned when I went into that because I was thinking, yeah, I took the programmer course and stuff. I'm gonna program these radio stations, right? And that wasn't the case. So that's what's happening now. All of these radio stations that you see, those are corporately owned, and they're not even, the programming is not even run from the actual city. You know what I'm saying? It's boxed in from somewhere else. They buy, they put it on a computer, and they shoot it out. I think what's happening is that we have to refocus on the growth of what I'm seeing, and that's helped us promote our music has been the internet radio stations, and social media. So I think that as Facebook gets restricted, we're gonna see more things on YouTube, and people opening up their own internet radio stations. I belong to a network of like 20, 30 stations on the internet, and each of those stations got their own listeners. So remember, everything's technology now, so we cannot rely on the radio stations that you hear locally on the Chicago radio, because a lot of their audience, I'm sad to say, but a lot of their audience is gone.
Oh,
You
no,
know,
George,
you know,
it just,
everybody's on internet radio.
right. And I think why I mentioned it was one of the downfalls that Carlos was saying, why it went. Today, it's a different story. Just 2020 doesn't have that problem anymore, because honestly, I don't even think people even listen to the radio as much anymore. When they don't really listen to radio. They listen to XFM. That's
Yeah,
kind
no, but you know, like, you know, people ask me like, hey, why are you, you know, I hear your commercials on like these Colombian radio stations. Well, they're the only ones playing the music that I'm programming, you
Right.
know, so, and I'm getting more for my buck. You know, I got a radio station in Cali, I got a radio station in Barranquilla, you know, that's my market. But you know, we're getting radio stations from LA that are playing all the salsa, um that you know, they got listeners. And the thing is, like, you know, we're moving for, you know, the people coming listening to the music from all over the world. And I think that's how we break in a new artist now, you know. And I, you know, because, you know, the salsa fan that's overseas, you know, remember, those people got family here, you know. And that's the way I look at it. Because, you know, there was a funny story, like, so a couple years last year, I had people coming, you know, like every year it grows and it grows. We got people driving in, flying in from other markets, you know, to come to the fest. Why? You know, I'm like, well, the programming. Where are you going to see all this array of artists in one stage that you're not going to be able to see anywhere else? You know, where we try to program a little bit differently. Um, growing up in that salsa market, you know, I gotta capture some of the old folks and some of the new folks. But our advertising and our promotion now, you know, it's like, you know, you can't really rely on your traditional media anymore.
No,
You
no,
know,
I agree.
so like, I was excited. Like, I mean, Enriquez, I heard one of your songs on one of the radio stations, the Salsa internet radio stations. Hey, this guy's from Chicago. You know, so the thing is that, you know, as artists, you know, we have to, you know, and promoters and stuff, look for other mediums, and because it adds up. You know, 1,000 people here, 10,000 people there, 20,000 people there. All of these people add up. By the time you know it, you know, between all of these radio stations across the world that are programming the tropical music, now you know, because that's why I took the fest. The fest is not just Chicago anymore, you know, promoting wise. I want to make it a destination, you know, a destination, because, you know, there were some people that actually moved to Florida and came back because, oh, let's come back to Chicago. When am I going to come back to Chicago? Okay, I'm going to come back during the Colombian Fest in the summer so I can catch 2 or 3 festivals.
Right.
That's the way we have to promote
Right.
Chicago. Come to Chicago in the summer. What do you got? You got, you know, salsa, merengue, Cuban. You got all of this music, this live music. We got to build that up and promote Chicago's scene outside of our parameters. So
We
that
have a
those
lot of
people come
festivals
back,
here.
you know, yeah. I mean, why do you think Lollapalooza and all these big giant American festivals, where are they promoting? They promote outside. You know how many people come for Lollapalooza? Half of them are not even from Chicago.
Right.
You know, so it's just the way so it's the same thing. I mean, our salsa market is niche, right? It's a smaller market. But where are our people? A lot of people moved away from Chicago that listen to our music. Like Enrique said, he went to Florida and he's seen everybody there. I can tell you the same thing. I went down to Florida, dude. I went to a club in Miami, outside of Miami, and all of my dad's friends that were here in Chicago. I walked into this club with these DJs, and I'm like, dude, half of Chicago Colombian community was there. You know, the same thing happened to Jesus. So it's the same thing. You go to Orlando, I know you're going to see a lot of people. So ideas, let's get to those people. How do we get to them? Listen, come back to Chicago, at least for a couple weeks or whatever. Come and enjoy some live music. You know, we have to keep that music alive.
Right.
And you, like you said, it's a labor of love, and it's a responsibility. You know, we're socially responsible, you know, company, and that's part of our mission. You know, I got to preserve, you know, our music, not just Colombian music, but you know, our music. You know, it's a world music, it's global music.
Right.
So
Just to give you credence in what you're saying, right now we have Latinos Unidos from Montreal online right now. So they're listening to it.
we
So
got the Brazilians. We got the Brazilians. Maria from Brazilian Cultural Center. They're having
nice,
some of the
nice.
same. You know, they want to see
So
some of that Cuban,
so I
Brazilian
think
music.
right. I think this platform, what's going on with the life and what we're doing right now, is going to reach a lot of people. And I agree with you. And we need to reach more people outside of just Chicago and not rely on the radio. I agree, because radio is not where it's at anymore when it comes to the niche market that we're talking about. I think for you guys as musicians, you use four. I think the live music and doing original music is always going to be a big plus, because you know, and especially I you know, one of the cool things that A-Rod Angel has done with me, he's worked with me for almost what, 14 years now, 13 years, I think.
It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while, and something that was discussed. We discuss a lot of things, and one of the things I'm always discussing is at the front door with him when I'm not DJing, and then my other DJs. It's always about what can we do for the industry, and he'll tell you very honestly was like about, and no disrespect to Angel from 809. But I remember that conversation that was in 2005 was like, you know, I heard Angel playing, you know, the Hector Lavoe, you know, and I says, oh shit, I'm hearing this song in 4 different nightclubs, the same, you know, kind of the same track, kind of what Indris was saying about it. And I was like, can we do something different? Can we get new music that people don't always hear? It's not the same track, because especially if you're doing a weekly thing, you know, that was a part of it, because, you know, I'm doing it every Tuesday or I'm doing every Saturday doing live music. I have to be like, okay, how can we be innovative? And I think it runs a little different as a promoter that does a weekly thing as opposed to a promoter doing a festival thing or a Salsa Congress thing. It's a little different because, you know, as I tell everybody I work with Rosita from the Salsa Congress, I work with George from the Cuban Fest, I work with you, George from the Colombian Fest. You guys are not my competition. And that's why I work with everybody, because to me, you guys have one weekend. And it's great because it's going to give the variety for our Chicago needs. And you're going to bring in artists that I would never normally bring to for economic purposes, could never bring on a Tuesday night or a Saturday night or a Friday night in Chicago. And so to me, it's about always supporting everybody.
Yeah, we have to be together
Right,
in the business.
right.
Well, yeah, I think that's very important, because, you know, I think with this experience that we're living with right now with COVID, I think that, you know, building those relationships, making them stronger again, because I think as a community, if not just, you know, like right here, what you have here, you got Cuban, you got Mexican, Puerto Rican. I mean, you got, you know, an array of people and cultures. So I think, and business people, promoters, managers, artists, arrangers. I mean, it's a whole network of people. I think we have to get together, and bring that back together, not be competitive. You know, we're all competitive already, but I think we need to come together as a local industry, because that'll make us stronger. I mean, there's efforts out there. You know, I've seen the efforts of, you know, we're trying to get funding for the venues, you know, for COVID, for the promoters, for the nightclubs. You know, there's money, other monies for groups out there. So keeping this is a start. Let's not, once this thing is lifted, let's not go back to the old ways. And, you know, I think that we need to get together as a musical community, everybody's interests, you know, to make the music industry in Chicago come back stronger, come back more vibrant. And I know we're going to come back hungry, you know, and, you know, I miss you guys, you know, and I know like there was a thing, you know, listen, the economics are going to be here, are going to be tough. We got to deal with it. Uh, but I think that there's an opportunity um, to see some collaborations, you know, which, you know, I'm going to put some things together at my fest. I want to try to do differently is try to bring, you know, everybody together. And I talked to Carlitos about this, you know, to, you know, I was in Bogota and I was like, man, this is great. You know, I want to do it, but man, you need 24 musicians, you know, that's an investment for a promoter, you know, to build a symphony style band, you know, backing up, you know, salsa tunes, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Right,
that's
right,
what was happening, you know, back in the old days, you know,
right.
you know, these huge bands.
I think
I'm a fan of big bands,
right. I think
especially for a festival.
I think we got a little taste of it when we did the tribute to Puerto Rico. Do you remember that, Angel? When we did the tribute to Puerto Rico,
Yes, sir.
and we had how many members? I mean, how many people came for that tribute? I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
how many?
everybody,
Yeah, the benefit concert for Hurricane
Yeah,
Maria.
you know.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think
yeah. That was an abnormality, obviously, because of a lot of bad things that occurred. But the coming together of the musician community, and obviously everyone was just so generous and donated their time. No one was getting paid for this. The
Right.
venue, JC Martini, very generous of them to offer the venue. You, Preto, for putting the event together, and me with dealing with all the musicians and putting the music together. That was quite an experience.
well, that's what I'm saying. So you had Micah Kendall there, you had Rosita there, you had Marcelino there. I mean, we all were together. We were all doing it together, and I think that's going to be very important going forward after this COVID, because I think we all have to come together. It can't be like same old, And I don't think we were really doggy dog in a sense, but I think it just in order to be successful, and remember, this doesn't just affect us. It affects all the bus boys, all the bartenders, everybody that works in this industry, all the people that work with you at the festivals, everybody that, from every band member. This affects everybody. And we're hurting. All of us are hurting. And, some of us have a day job and some of us live on this. This is our regular job. And I don't know about you, but if you're not working for a year, things can get really rough. For some
Dude,
people.
it's like, dude, I think the last, I haven't done a show in a long time, and it's just like, we ended up, we were forecasting this was going to be our year, we were going to do all this stuff, and then everything just got put aside. So now we have to regroup and come back bigger and stronger for next year, opening up those new markets. And I look forward to working, with everybody here in Chicago. Try to get that live scene back up again, because you know that's what we're trying to do. Is remember, Chicago was a festival town, and it still is. We just have to bring the Latin festivals back again, back online. So let's make that happen, and in the clubs, also. So those venues are important. We got to see, who's going to survive. The people that do survive, we got to work with them, and try to help them out so we can have venues that we can play in.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and real quick, for Yandris, Jesus, Carlos, and myself, as working musicians, it's a scary place to be because we don't know what the landscape is going to look like post COVID. All I do know is looking back at history is pre 9/11 versus post 9/11, we never attained that greatness of where it was before. So I think it would be foolish to think that we're going to surpass where we were pre-COVID. I mean, we want to get above where we were pre-COVID, because that's, as a musician only, I'm speaking as a musician, it still wasn't where we wanted it to be. We would love to be playing a lot more often. We would love to be, you know, have a larger band. Obviously, that's not directly you two promoters, but just as far as like a musician wish list, that's what, you know, we would love to have. So moving forward, you know, we have to be realistic and optimistic, but also realistic that, you know, history has shown that it never, you know, was better than it was before. So my fear of moving forward, speaking for myself as a band leader, is that things won't even get to where they were pre-COVID. And that's a scary place to be, because the bands were already very small. And what we don't want to set a precedent is bands willing to play for even less, or even having a smaller band, because then it's, for us to play what we want to play and for it to sound authentic, we cannot really do it with any less people than I mean, we were stretching, I mean, CeeLo can tell you, we were stretching the bare minimums on these things. For backup shows, different story, which is, you know, CeeLo was smart enough to stick with that, because you can get the money that you deserve, because it is what it is. You want a good band, this is what it costs. He didn't have to deal with the wheeling and dealing of the local venues as much as I did. And it's a different beast, you know, and you know, I understand all sides of it, because I worked with Pietro on the promotion side of it at Alhambra. So I see what the dollars are coming in. So it's not like, oh, he's hoarding all this and he doesn't want to share it. No, I see the reality of it. So this is not a personal attack against any kind of promoters or anything, but you know, I just want the health of the scene to be, I don't know what the answer is, how to get it to be a healthier scene. We want, you know, better. I love the diversity of the crowd that comes. But like I said, with losing that large Hispanic population, pre 9/11, we lost a lot of the people that were willing to pay for live music. So, you know, we see this all the time, as people don't want to pay a cover to come in. They don't even want to buy water. They're, you know, getting it from the bathroom sink or whatever they're getting it from. So, and then, you know, to couple that with, we lost our greatest dancers from the scene too, because they're all off doing their dance schools and doing their socials and stuff. So, not to be a, you know, a doomsayer here, but it's just the reality of kind of where our scene is. There's just so much that I want to see it progress, just because we have such great talent here, and we have such, you know, people with their heart in the right places. It's just a matter of, you know, trying to get that all to evolve into a place that, you know, the musicians are happy, the promoters are happy, the crowd, most importantly, because this is all for them, that they're happy too with the product that they're paying. If they're willing to pay for it, then we have to give them a product that's worth paying for.
I think too, a lot of the venues that have live music are not as big as before either. That's also a problem. So, you know, how many times that we play at these local venues, and the stages are way too small for anything more than 8 guys.
No,
And
yeah,
the
100,
capacity is
100%,
what, 150, 200 people? But those are the
100%.
ones that are actually supporting live music, because those, you know, the millennials now, they're not going to these big clubs. You know, back in the day, we had Sapphire 720, those bigger clubs that could hold bigger bands, and you can put 800 people there. There's not many venues that could do that now. You got Joe's Live, that can put, but Joe's Live does everything, all different kind of music.
Mhm.
So that's the thing, you know. And then Prieto's got a Humboldt, but that's a Tuesday. You know, he can't expect 1,000 people every Tuesday. If it was a Saturday, maybe, you know, maybe different, but
Yeah,
it's tough.
it's difficult to get the consistencies that me and
Hmm.
CeeLo saw pre 9/11, and I'm sorry, Jesus also pre 9/11, just because you had a venue that was Spanish 7 days a week. So it
Right.
was a restaurant or whatever it was, but there was always Spanish clientele coming. So now you have a sports
Hmm.
bar that 1 day a week, whether it's Covey or it's HVAC now, or any of those places that,
Right.
or a Polish club that, you know, okay, we have a Spanish night. Well, okay,
Yeah.
but it's hard to, oh wait, what night is it again? Wait, it's every other what? And it's difficult for people to fall into kind of a pattern. Your hardcore followers, yeah, they're gonna go on For Fantastic, or, you know, on Mikey O, or whoever it is, or on Jorge, whoever it is that they follow, and they're gonna kind of know. But for just the general music lover that wants to, you know, how many one night hit people that we see at Alhambra, there was like, yeah, I just Googled and I saw salsa at you know, at this place that never been here before, and they just happened to find it out of luck. But the people that we really want are the regulars that, you know, to keep coming and to bring new blood into the system too. So it's just hard, because, you know, the
Well,
venues are not really catering to a full-time Latin experience. It's like
Hmm.
one night a week.
well, just to give credence to what you said, Angel, I'm going to tell you, My first night was 2003 at Humboldt. I think it was 2003. It was on March, I want to say it was March 19th or something like it was a Tuesday. And I remember that's when Ortega was working there with me. What's it? Ada was working with me as well. And I remember, I think that's the record that we had. 850 people showed up. I think that was the record that we had. 850 people show up. And I looked at the crowd, and half of the crowd was the old school people that we knew from the 90s, you know, what you're talking about. And they were all new millenniums that were there. And I said, yeah, this is great, but I'll tell you, next week, half of this crowd is not going to be back. Because the old school crowd don't go weekly. they go once in a great while. And, you know, and that's just the demographics that happens. And they came out because it was a special event, but then the new millenniums were all the guys that were there, you know, coming by on a regular basis. You know, probably about 400 people were coming in and out on a Tuesday night. But on a regular basis, the old millenniums, or excuse me, the older crowd, they didn't come out. They only came out during, you know, the festivals. And that's what, and I think that's part of it, what got lost, in the sense that they, you know, for all different reasons, maybe they got older, they got relaxed, they didn't, you know, it kind of stopped. And CeeLo, to your point, it's unfortunate because after Tropicana, there was really no Latin big clubs anymore. You know, Excalibur, you know, became corporate, and that changed everything. And 720, you know, a ton had closed down, and it changed. The whole market changed as far as the clubs. So technically, they weren't Latin owner clubs anymore. You know, there wasn't really that big clubs that did Latin like Tropicana, because Ruben had it, and he did Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It was all Latin. And it just changed. And that also changed the demographics on a Friday and Saturday with live music, because you're right. If it was Friday and Saturday, I you know, I would see 1,000 people on the weekend on a Saturday night. You just, that changed, and that changed a lot of this scene in Chicago, because for whatever reason, all these Latin owners, they stopped it. They did something different.
I think, I mean, if you're a tourist in Chicago and you just landed here 2 months ago or before COVID, and you say, hey, can I go to a Latin club? You're going to tell them, I don't know if there's a Latin club that you can go to. The only one, you know, for example, on a Friday and Saturday that was consistent, you had Dylan's that you know that you were going to get Latin. You had Congas on a Friday and Saturday that was going to have Latin music. And I don't really know many more clubs that had Friday and Saturday. There was just one hitters. You had Cubby on Sunday. You had Masada once a month, every first Saturday of the month. But on a Friday, I don't know if there was really many places that had bands on a Friday. That
Well,
was the
yeah,
tough
well,
part.
and that's just even Latin venues, CeeLo. So if your friends were asking, hey, where can my friends in town, where can we go salsa dancing? That was one answer. And then if someone asked you, well, where can I go see a live band? That was a totally different answer. Like, like there may not be a band at all for like another couple of weeks somewhere.
Yeah, you're right.
So I mean, so I think we're gonna wrap it up, because we got about 15 minutes, I think. But I mean, so let's go down the line here. Jesus, what is your plans for the future as far as after COVID? If we can say this is going to be done, what do you think your focus, or what are you going to do, Jesus?
Well, I got a lot of hope. We're gonna continue creating new music, and I sure each one got new songs coming up. And like Carlito say, we hungry to go back. So we hope this happens soon, and we're gonna do with more power, with more how illusion, with more, like how I say, with more power, and we're just waiting for the um, the new, how you say, the vaccine
Oh yeah, the vaccine.
work,
Vacuna, vacuna.
let's do it.
Mhm.
Mhm. Ajá, la vacuna, and let's do it.
But are you still working with Oscar? Are you still doing some new music with him and doing the?
Yes, I'm still working with Oscar, Picorelli, Nathan, and we're gonna come in with a new, and I'm still working with Gendries. I wanna
Nice.
aprovechar la oportunidad to say thank you so much. Gracias, Gendry, por la oportunidad que me has dado con tu
Gracias a ti.
canción.
And then
Gracias.
I know you,
And
Yandres.
thank you, each one.
Right. And Andres is and from what I understand and what I'm seeing online is that you are putting as we say you're the glue on a lot of these people doing these because you're the studio.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah, it's important to have a studio recording. It's one of the most important things for a musician. That's why I try to keep open because I have been about 8 months hard time in this 8 months, but I try to keep alive my studio because I know the importance that maybe now they don't know, but I think that in the future the people say thanks to all the job that all the people that have been recording here. I can say Olavarrias, who is original music from Puerto Rico, from the corazón de Puerto Rico, Jesus Enriquez, John Rodriguez, Mega City here, a lot of people, and I have to say thank you to Nathan Rodriguez también, porque también tiene su estudio y en el poco tiempo he's doing beautiful things, beautiful things, a lot of songs, a lot of original stuff with music from Puerto Rico, from here, from Chicago. And the most important thing is stay together and promote, share. It's important. Okay, Nathan, you have a new song. Prieto, share with Prieto, share with DJ, with other DJ. Marcelino put in the festival, put in the sound. Say to the sound guy, hey, you have to put 4 times this afternoon this song, the Nathan original song, or Jesus Rodriguez or the Enrique Calderon. A lot of artists here in Chicago, a lot, no one or 2 or 3, a lot of artists, a lot of musicians, a lot of singers with great talent that could be great. It's our job, not my job, our job, together, everybody together, promoters, business, club owners, not the club owners, because at the end, we are the responsible of keep the music alive, the salsa alive, but not only the business, because we are talking about here about 2 different things. The business and our business, our salsa, the business, how stay alive, how keep in the business, how keep open the club, play in the clubs. It's good. Keep next year, everything will be okay. We keep playing, but we have to think about what happened next year, what could happen 20 years, okay, with my music, with the Chicago music. Okay, we don't want to remember Chicago, Chicago, the big tribute to other people in the world. No, Chicago had to have our music, okay, the music from Chicago, salseros from Chicago, and the music have to stay in the recording. No, in the recording, okay? I think that is one of the most important things in, like me, like producer, and you like promoters, okay?
and Carlos.
Oh, give me the question, please.
No, it's just saying from going forward, what do you feel that you're going to be doing as far as from this point forward? If it's opening
For
up,
the band, you saying?
yeah, for the band and for everything that you're doing, what is your plans for the?
Well, interestingly enough, before this all hit, Caribe Project was actually in talks to pull out a single. I know we haven't pulled out a single, and every time we play, people ask me, hey, when is Caribe Project coming out with a single? And we were in the works of putting out a single, and then COVID hit. So I unfortunately didn't take advantage of the COVID situation like a lot of other bands. I know Afinca pulled out a single, Jesus pulled out, Conjunto's doing a lot of things, Enrique Calderon is also pulling out singles. So these guys took advantage of the time off because it's hard when we're working a lot, it's hard to get the musicians to go into the studio because they're so busy doing a lot of other things. So kudos to them for doing that. And once this is all over, we just have to regroup and see if we can get this single off the ground and see what we can do. You know, and I know we didn't thank a lot of the promoters, but I want to thank the promoters who actually give us the opportunity to play at their venues, and hopefully they still have the willpower and all the finances to do it all over again. I know Mikey O is a big advocate for live salsa. Wherever he can put live salsa, he'll put it in a corner, even if it's three guys in a closet, he'll do it. You know, Cubby Bear, Enrique, he loves live music. If he can do it, he'll do it. I know that. The festivals, I think the festivals are going to be all right. That, like we talked about before, I think the festivals, because they're outside, they're going to do great. You have the Colombian Fest, the Peruvian Fest, the Puerto Rican Fest. All those festivals are going to be doing fine. So hopefully the I know the festivals will be fine. Hopefully the clubs will start picking up slowly, and the live band promoters will continue doing what they were doing prior to COVID. And I just want to give a shout out to my Caribe Project family, and hang in there. 2021 is coming, and we're going to continue doing big things.
Yeah, and Angel, what is your perspective?
Yeah, you know, kind of bouncing off of CeeLo, my thoughts going into this year were to try to finally document some of the singers that I've worked with, just because I've had the flexibility of I don't have a designated singer for the band, so I'm always rotating different people through to try to showcase whatever talent Chicago has to offer. And you know, Milwaukee, Indiana with Marty Soul Jr. and all those, you know, Robert Narbodi, all those guys, great musicians. So for me, I just wanted to try to document some of that and push out something this year too. But what I would probably say, CeeLo, is that, you know, this is actually probably a good time because a lot of guys are able to record remotely, and you're going to get
Right.
master musicians from PR right now recording stuff at a huge discount just because they need to live off of music too. So if they're willing to, you know, still record, and you're going to be able to get some great musicians. So if you're able to do something during COVID, this is actually the prime time you can help another musician financially right now and get, you know, some great musicianship documented for
Yes,
whatever it is that you guys are trying to move forward with.
I agree.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just hoping, you know, I'm maybe haven't sounded the most positive, but I'm just trying to be realistic moving forward. I do hope that everything, you know, can be greater than it was before. I hope that everyone's out there staying safe and healthy right now. You know, happy Thanksgiving to all of you gentlemen, and to all our crowd out there. There's a lot to be, even with a year like this, there's a lot to be thankful for. We all woke up today. We didn't have to, so you know, it's no matter what situation life has put you in, you know, at least we're still here badly. Some people aren't able to do that. So, you know, it's just, you know, music is a great thing. It's hurting us so much, whether or not we need the money, just because we love to put our art form on stage for people. We love to give to people. So for, you know, Carlos, myself, Yandere, Jesus, as musicians, it's very difficult not to be out there sharing your art, because more than the money or more than fame or anything, it's just that what we love to do. We would do it for free. Well, don't take that literally, but we would do it for free, just
You heard it. You heard it.
just out of the
I'm writing
love
it down. Wait a minute. I got a
just
free
out-
card. I got a free card.
just out of the love of the music, but you know, but just keeping the culture alive, and hoping that we can you know, do some music education moving forward and reunite with our dance community. And you know, I'm looking forward to whatever it is on the other side of this. And I don't know what the expiration date of this is, but I'll doing my best to stay positive and stay flexible so that I can adapt to whatever the new normal is going to be.
And George, what and your perspective, or what you believe?
Well, I mean, like what I said earlier, with Angel, and I agree with everybody. I'm very hopeful. It's been a really tough year for us here in the Ortega family. You know, we lost my dad in July. You know, I got COVID. You know, it's like one thing is not as, you know, we just kept getting hit. You know, this is one of those years that everybody got hit, you know what I'm saying? You know, we went from, you know, growing 200% forecast for, you know, 2020 to zero. So the good thing is, what did they say? There's only room to go up, because we can't go any more further down than where we're at now, except if we die. But and we're here. Thank God that I'm here, talking to you guys. And with that note, you know, I'm very positive, staying hopeful, refocusing oneself, because I think what COVID has taught me is like, you know what matters, you know, family, friends, you know, and keeping our mission, which is, you know, preservation. You know, my goal is to leave something for our kids. Like Andres said, you know, 20 years from now, what are they going to say? Ah, Chicago no dejó nada. You know, but at least, you know, I'm with the fight. You know, I'm like that Tyson coming back fighting again, bro, at 50, whatever it is. Dude, that guy got my mad respect. So I think that as an industry, I look at that, and that's what we got to come back. We're going to come back fighting hard. And like this one coach said, you know, you got to keep going in the ring. Don't give up the fight, and we're not going to do that. So we're going to grow our festivals, move into other ventures in the live music scene, try to grow that, and you know, grow also you know, other projects that we're doing that are going to help the live scene that we'll be announcing soon. And then just want to bless everybody. Thank you for the support all these years. And just to let you guys know, you know, we're here, and we're here to stay, and we're here for the community, here for the music industry. You guys are my friends and family. You know, it's a big family, and we want to make it bigger, make it better. You know, that's what I want to finish, and looking forward to getting this COVID thing under control so we can get back, you know, to our business, our music business, which at the end of the day is art, music, and business. So let's take care of all those three things. Create. If you guys create, we can push it, and then people will come. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. And, you know, kind of blending into what everybody's saying, you know, I've been involved with you guys, all of you guys, for quite a long time, and we have our personal conversations all the time. And one of the things that has happened, and I think it's one of my saving grace, I think, during this time, is that I don't know if you've seen my posting, and back to what you were saying, George, about creating legacies and to our family. And one of the things that I've done is, obviously, you see, I'm big in the century DNA thing. I'm big in doing discovery about where I came from and going forward. But it goes back to the whole thing, is that one of the things that I said in doing this was to show my children where I come from and what happened and where we're from. And I think all of us, with all our children and all our family, that's what we want to do. We want to put our mark into what we're doing in what we've done in our industry. And one of the things that in comment, and going back to what you were saying, all you guys, I think we all look at this as a family, but we also look at our community, or should I say our customers, people who are listening to it as a community, and we care about them as well. We care them for health purposes. We care for them as far as what they like in their hearing. We care. And I don't think that's ever going to disappear, in the fact that what we come out of us, we want people, and you said people are hungry, right, Carlos? I think people are hungry for that same interaction that they had with us, meaning that they hear us playing live music, they hear, you know, they're dancing, I don't think that's ever going to go away. And I think as human society, we are going to have to give it to them. So that's why I mentioned about the drive-throughs and stuff like that. It's great for a Band-Aid, but I think for just the general human population, that's one of the things that why we do live music is to have that audience and that reaction. And, you know, and I know every one of you musicians out there, when you're on stage, that gives you that drive because you're doing that live music in front of them and that reaction. It's a push and pull situation.
The interaction with the crowd is what drives us.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, as promoters, we don't have that same, because we're not on stage, but we have that kind of interaction with the customers because we're hearing cheers and we're hearing that like, oh, yeah. they like what we're giving them. Okay, let's give them more. You know?
Hey, and don't forget interactions will both work both ways. Sometimes they don't like what they hear, and we get that too. Hey, we get that brutal honesty too, and we like that too. I mean, we're out there as musicians, and our intention is always to do the best that we can. And believe me, I've been putting out more videos now of the stuff that I had archived for all these years, and it's been rough to listen to myself. But you know, the band is a greater good. As long as the singer sounds good and the band sounds good, I'll deal with my mistakes out there, and that's fine because you know no one is out there to bring down the culture and the importance of this music. And there's plenty times that things don't go the way we want them to, as I'm sure CeeLo can tell you. Just dealing with behind the scenes stuff, rehearsals, and people canceling on the day of gigs. It's amazing. Just sometimes people don't understand the amount of work that goes into what you see on stage.
George knows when he's putting the fuss together how to get those rehearsals going, how to get everything going. He needs a 20-man crew over there just to get things rolling before the first day of the festival. This is we're talking months prior.
I'm like I said, I already started today. I got some clearance from the Park District, so we already started today for the Colombian Fest and a few other festivals. But I think I wanted to mention something very important that I seen this live show. It was a Colombian artist, and he mentioned it in his write-up. He did this wonderful live concert, but he was like, dude, it was weird. It was the hardest thing the dude ever did because you're playing to nobody. You know what I'm saying? So, that's very important. Again, that artist interaction, that's what people want. That, like you said, is the interaction. Why do you go to a fest? Why do you go to a live show? Why do you go to a club? So I think that one of the things that I see happening is that the virtual world is not going to go away. It's going to be here. So I think that we have to adapt, especially your large scale events where, we do the festival, we're going to have to offer a virtual, fest or music concert or whatever online to open up to a broader audience. So I think that, as an artist, I mean, I'm looking at it on a legal standpoint, but I think the artists have to be prepared where there's going to be events that, okay, you have to renegotiate. Like I think Angel was saying that, now, if they're going to do a recording of this event, now the fee's different. Okay, I'm going to put you on camera for 3 songs. I got to pay you an extra, whatever that fee is, and those waivers. And, I think that that's where a little bit more income might come in further down the line for artists and musicians where, the virtual world is not going to leave us.
Well, just in case in point, look at Enriquez. We have a viral superstar here because his video went all over the world. But how important that is, and how important that it reached different people. And I think that's one of the things. And I'm going to tell you honestly, and don't take this the wrong way, guys, but I think video is very important for the message that's out there. And just to give that purpose, look at how big the reggaeton market, because of the reggaeton market is all about videos. They've reached a bigger world than the salsa market has. I think that was one of the discussions that I said with Afrigao and Nathan and stuff like that, because that becomes a big part of this industry. It's because it's virtual. It's still the YouTube and all this stuff. And you proved that point because it becomes part of it. And this industry is changed, and the media has changed. And and yes, it's great that it's YouTube and great that the media is there. But again, and Angel will attest to this because he was there working security for me. We brought an artist from what was the group from New York? It's the name of the New York City. God, I get one. Why was oh God? I brought an artist into play at a Humboldt, and it was a group that had a huge YouTube following, and we had so many people I've never seen before, and it was one of the bigger numbers that we had, and it was because they had such a YouTube following. They came in and I was like, wow, this is crazy. I would never have thought this. And I think that's a very valuable marketing tool in the sense of, especially what's happening here with COVID. I think you guys as musicians and producers and stuff like that, I think for us promoters, I think that helps us out because it's easier marketing tool, to say, hey, we got this artist, and guess what? And here we got a video of everything that you guys do. So I'm just pointing that out because I think when things open up, they're going to have that virtual world meet the real world because of the fact that people are hungry, as you said, Carlos. And I think that's going to be a big part of it with the guys that are producing videos and having videos out, and all your videos, Angel, that you're posting as well. It's a big plus. Don't stop. All you guys, don't stop. If you're pushing out these videos, don't stop. Keep pushing it. Even if you don't think it's as good as you might think it is, not Angel, but it's still part of the just keeping, and honestly,
Promotion.
It honestly, with why I'm doing this, when I did my front door show, I did 100 shows. People told me, genius. Oh my God, it's genius what you're doing, because I'm still in contact with all these people, and all the people that are signing on, having 4,000 views on the videos here is important because we're still in contact. Even though we're not physical contact, we're still having everybody here reaching out to people that we would normally not reach out individually. And I think that's important up until there's a grand opening night, or for the whole Chicago, or, for whatever, live music. I think this is important for all of us to do.
No, for sure. And bouncing off of that, my interview show has been, for me, just a healthy and a positive thing, just because I get to stay actively communicating with some of these musicians that I haven't seen since, some of them since way before pre-COVID, that I just haven't worked with. I know CeeLo and me have been trying to get it to work. Now that I know that Yendris and Jesus have been lying to me and they actually speak English, they're going to be they're going to be on the show too, because I was worried about my Spanish, and their English is
Right.
My
English is not very good.
So
we heard Celia use that a line too.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been a blessing just to have that brother and sisterhood with the musician community,
Right.
and just to be able to see them and to see you guys on camera, it's just, it warms your heart, because it's like, man, you feel like this is the next closest thing to seeing each other. This is much better than not seeing each other at all. So, definitely thanks for my relationships with each one of you. Beto, for all the years. Jorge, me and you haven't had the opportunity to work together yet, but I'm hoping that we do. Yendris, just a short amount of time that I've known you, amazing amount of talent that you have. I just thought he was a piano player. Guy plays every instrument, sings, raps. I'm like, my God. And CeeLo,
Survive.
CeeLo, for the friendship that we've had over all these years, and he was a band leader way before me, so props to you for dealing with that. And then Jesus, just the amazing talent, giving me an opportunity to be in his band back in its heyday, back in 96 to 98, like he said. And a man with so much talent, he really deserves to be on the forefront of the music scene, not just in Chicago, but, worldwide. So we definitely need to get him back to that stature, because, a great, humble singer and amazing talent.
Thank you. Gracias.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for I
you.
really appreciate everything you guys talked about. I think anybody that listened, this was a treasure for them, a treasure full of information. And I think, this is not going to be, I told you, this isn't going to be the last of it. I think there's going to be more. I'm going to try to do this every Wednesday, do the roundtable thing and talk about different things and stuff like that. So I appreciate everybody coming together. Thank you, guys.
Gracias.
Thank
problem.
you.
Gracias,
Thank you.
gracias.
Happy
Muchísimas
Thanksgiving,
gracias.
everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving, blessings.
Blessing to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pelea del pavo, papá.